This video has been filmed on the lands of the Gadigal of the Eora Nation. We pay respect to their elders past and present and to any First Nations people watching. As we share our knowledge, teaching, learning and research practices within this university, may we also pay respect to the knowledge forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of country.
The Chinese Togo collection arguably is the largest Chinese Togo collection in the world. Powerhouse has 279 of them, and we had carefully selected 80 of them in this exhibition. You use toggle to tie on one side of the rope, and the other side we tie with a pouch, and that pouch will sit on the belt, because in classical Chinese garment, we don't have much pockets. So wearing belt and with different pouches tied around the waist is really necessary. So Chinese toggle used as counterweight and fastener for these pouches.
We were very fortunate to be invited to go to the Powerhouse Museum to look at a whole range of different types of toggles. This included toggles that were made predominantly from the mineral jade, but also from ivory. And there were a few other toggles in there that they really didn't know what the material was. And that was our job. Our job was to work out what these materials were. The techniques that we typically use here at the museum for analysis of lots of different objects are broadly known as vibrational spectroscopy. Now, this is my fun little example where we've got a water molecule, we've got oxygen, and we've got two hydrogens. And as you can see here in blue, we have chemical bonds that hold these together. Now, they don't really hold them hard like this. But what happens is the hydrogen and oxygen vibrate. So they move towards and away from one another. And it takes a certain amount of energy to do that. We measure the energy that it takes for these types of vibrations to occur. They're very characteristic, which allows us to identify different types of materials. So two of the techniques we often use are Raman spectroscopy, and Raman uses a laser, and the other type of spectroscopy is infrared. Infrared has lots of different types of light sources, one of those being near-infrared light. And both Raman and near-infrared light have been used to analyse the Chinese toggles here at the Chau Chak Wing Museum.
The concept or the term of jade in China, yu, that's mean Mandarin Chinese, has a much broader meaning comparing to what jade is considered in science. So in Chinese culture, jade could include a really wide range of materials, rocks and minerals, including amphibole, serpentine, agate, and jadeite, even turquoise and crystal as well. So it's way beyond what science definition to jade. However, serpentine was unearthed even back in the Neolithic period in China, during particularly mid-late Neolithic period. We consider it as jade age. So has been really significant for Chinese for more than 1,000 years.
It's very easy to look at an object and make an assumption that it's made of a certain material, but for various reasons, it may not be what it appears to be. Ivory is a great example. It has something called Traeger lines, and they have a specific angle at which they grow, and from those lines you can determine what type of elephant that this ivory came from. But during the course of its life, as it's made into a toggle, and you've got a Chinese artist who has gone through and changed the shape, some of those more obvious means of identifying its origin have been removed.
We were most impressed by the outcome that of the elephant ivory, 7 of the elephant ivory turned out to be mammoth ivory, and we were able to determine this purely because of vibrational spectroscopy. So this was something that could only be achieved, this fascinating subject, an outcome could only be achieved through the analysis.
Having sample characterization to identify the materialities through the scientific facility or equipment is really important for exhibition making and collection research, and as well as provenance research.
I think audiences are fascinated by the presentation material, especially when they know they're getting the most up-to-date information possible. When they're looking at our collections, I think they're benefiting now from a museum's intent and desire to try and bring the most up-to-date information and new information too. In the display, we've also got a series of spectra and some of the toggles that those spectra relate to, just to intimate to our audience, our student staff and the broader public audience, we're undertaking the most recent and up-to-date kinds of analyses that is possible. And it provides confidence in what they're seeing.
It is not a common practice to have, a scientific analysis within the display. So they find it is really refreshing and give them sort of a bigger spectrum to look at the material of the object.